Hey all, welcome to the Weekly Bytes. That's right, we're adding a new series to Bytesector. The Weekly Bytes will be a compressed recap of this week's news every week. We'll cover hot new releases, interesting tech, industry trends, security breaches, and anything else we think you should know, all wrapped up in a short, consumable episode. This week, we're going to cover the past 2 weeks worth of news. So the episode might be a bit longer. We're aiming to keep these episodes to a maximum 5 minutes, hopefully less because that's consumable, something you can watch quickly. That said, let's get nibbling on this week and last week's news bites. So topping last week's tech releases were a host of new Apple products. Apple announced a long overdue MacBook Air sporting a pair of Thunderbolt Type-C connectors, a larger trackpad, a unique new keyboard key mechanism that's called the butterfly mechanism, a Core i5-8210Y up to 16 gigs of RAM, and a Retina display and 1.5 terabytes of SSD storage. Other releases from Apple included a refresh to the iPad Pro lineup and another long overdue Mac Mini refresh that brings the tiny package up to a hex-core Core i7, up to 64 gigs of RAM, and optional 10 gigabit networking. That's right, 10 gig networking in a tiny Mac Mini. I think a lot of YouTube producers have just found their new media ingest platform. Anyways, moving on. In other news, effective November 1st, Canadian firms now have to publicly disclose data breaches when they happen, instead of hiding them and releasing them at a later date, if they release them at all. This serves consumers in a big way and is a long overdue legal change. In other Canadian news, the Google Pixel 3 and Pixel 3 XL are now available for purchase in Canada. That's right, the pre-order phase has officially ended. I hope you all got your free Pixel stands. Last Tuesday, OnePlus announced their brand new OnePlus 6T cell phone. It sports the usual suspects in hardware and, amazingly, I would call it the first mainstream phone to sport an under-the-display fingerprint sensor. With memory running from 6 to 8 gigabytes of RAM and 64 to 256 gigabytes of in-device storage, a massive 6.4-inch display, and one of the smallest notches in 2018, this device shows some serious promise. So we'll see, OnePlus. I think you might have a winner on your hands. This week, we saw AMD launch their new EPYC Rome server processors. I haven't had a chance to dive too deep on these, but it looks like AMD is assaulting Intel on all fronts, and Intel is quaking in their boots and maybe performing some knee-jerk reactions as a result to try and maintain their market share. It's worth noting here that AMD and their new EPYC chips are working on a 7nm lithography, while Intel continues to push forward with their 14nm lithography, which is double the size. Insane. You're also, Intel, struggling with your 10nm lithography, which is kind of mind-boggling given that AMD has already figured out 7. Good luck. At their developer conference this week, Samsung announced a prototype foldable phone. That's right, a foldable phone. Could this be the new Note 10, or maybe the Galaxy S10, or maybe we're looking at a whole new product line called the Galaxy Fold 10? Who knows? I really hope that foldable phones like this don't take off. They lack imagination and, in my eyes, are just a technical showcase rather than a realistic marketplace product. For those of you who own a Nintendo Switch, you'll be happy to know that you can now watch YouTube on the Switch, officially, at least. That's right, as long as you have Wi-Fi and, some time, you can watch YouTube on your Switch rather than your cell phone. Enjoy! And lastly, some reports show that Apple might have been considering installing a Core i7 processor in their new MacBook Air Refresh lineup. I think we can all agree, though, that they made the right choice putting in an i5. One thermal throttling product line is enough. Anyways, guys, that's all for this week. Thanks for watching. If you like the Weekly Bytes, be sure to tune in every Friday for a new episode. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, and the notification bell so that you know when we release a new episode. And we'll see you next week. Ciao.